Coming up, Cherokees who take the stage. How Becky Hobbs, a country and western singer-songwriter, created a new legacy, carrying on that of her ancestor, Nancy Ward. Plus, Mary Kathryn Nagle, an attorney and playwright putting important Native history in the spotlight. And it's a different kind of stage, but jouster Amy Staton is leaving a legacy of her own. And we're in New York City as two young ballerinas seize the opportunity of a lifetime.
The Cherokees.
A thriving American Indian tribe.
Our history.
Our culture.
Our people.
Our future.
The principles of a historic nation.
Sewn into the fabric of a modern world.
Hundreds of thousands strong.
Learning. Growing.
Succeeding.
And steadfast.
In the past, we have persevered through struggle.
But the future is ours to write.
Osiyo.
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 These are the voices of the Cherokee people.
Osiyo, I'm Principal Chief Bill John Baker. Welcome to the Cherokee Nation and OsiyoTV. This is how we share our culture, our heritage, our history, and our language with you. Wado.
Osiyo, it's how we say hello in Cherokee. I'm your host, Jennifer Lauren, at the Cherokee National Peace Pavilion in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Today, we're shining a spotlight on Cherokee performance artists. From ballerinas to playwrights, we have plenty of noteworthy artists carrying on stage traditions. Attorney and playwright Mary Kathryn Nagle finds inspiration in the stories of our tribe's past, as well as our present. She uses that knowledge to fight for the sovereignty of all tribes and places our most dramatic stories on center stage.
A lot of people think that lawyers are people who read and write well, and they should be, but good lawyers know how to tell stories. Successful lawyers tell stories well. A lot of my fellow law students in law school were very good storytellers. Many of them had been involved in theater at some point in their life, and one of my favorite memories of law school was every year I was in law school, we produced a play. What first captured me was escaping fully into someone else's story. Was really intriguing to me, and all of a sudden being somewhere else and creating a whole other world with other people. When I graduated from law school, I actually ended up clerking for 2 federal judges at once in the District of Nebraska in Omaha, Judge Joseph Battalion and Judge Lori Smithcamp. And one of the first assignments that Judge Battalion gave me, he came into my office and said, "Mary Kathryn, I want you to research all the decisions that this federal court has issued and pick the most important one. And we're going to create a historical display on the first floor of the courthouse." And I discovered that in 1879, the first federal judge in the District of Nebraska declared Indians to be persons under the law. And that was the trial of Chief Standing Bear. And I had never heard of this case before. So I go to my judge and I said, "Judge, I've picked a case, Standing Bear versus Crook." And I said, "This May 12th, 2009 is the 130th anniversary of the trial. We should, on the 130th anniversary, invite the Ponca tribe of Nebraska and their chairman and their leadership to come for a ceremony in the courthouse, and we should do a reenactment of the trial." And he's like, "A reenactment? Like a play?" There's certain things we can do as lawyers. You can argue cases, you can write law review articles, you can write really good briefs, and you can cite all the cases. But what's missing in the United States right now are our stories. I am a direct descendant of John Ridge and Major Ridge. And actually, that's one of the plays that I'm writing right now for the arena stage, is about the Ridges and John Ross. Most folks at Cherokee Nation know them as the signers of the Treaty of New Echota. Some would say they deserve to be assassinated. And I understand that. I understand where those feelings come from. I would ask that people learn the entire history. There were a lot of things that happened before 1835. So I write this play, and I was very nervous writing it at first. But then I thought, you know what, this is what I do though. I gotta write this, and this is who I am. So I wrote this play, and we were doing a reading of it. It was so powerful to have them in the room reading Major Ridge and then a Ridge descendant. They both said to me afterwards, I just was taught as a kid that the Ridges were bad people and that they're the reason the Trail of Tears happened. And now I understand the full story. And I really think that, you know, I can think that the treaty was wrong, but I understand that both the Ridges and the Rosses were just doing what they thought would save their nation. And that to me was so incredibly meaningful. You know, a lot of people talk about historical trauma and the trauma that gets passed down from generation to generation. And I didn't really think about it, but Dr. Dwayne King, who's at the Gilcrease, who's done a ton of research on Cherokee Nation history, I was reaching out to him, and I was going through the John Ross papers at the Gilcrease, and he said, you know, I actually know the very spot where Major Ridge was shot. Do you want to see it? And I was like, yeah, I want to go. And I didn't really think about it until I got there and until I stood on the spot. And I can't explain it. It just, it made it very real in a way that I had never, you know, I'd always intellectualized it. And then all of a sudden I'm trying to write their words. And I'm hearing my grandmother, who's no longer with me. And I mean, it was intense in a way that I've never experienced before, and it does feel like I have to get this right. It has to be perfect, and every line has to be perfect. Otherwise, I've failed them, and that's a tough burden to carry. But I think that I'm not unique in that. Anyone who's a citizen of a tribal nation is here today because at some point along the way, someone in their lineage, right, sacrificed his or her life so that they could be here today. And so I think no matter what you do, whether it's write plays or fight cases in the court or, you know, practice traditional art or make food or raise families, whatever you're doing, right, I think that we all feel, even if it's just subconscious, a little bit of that pressure of, I'm here today, I've got to do something with that.
Cherokee Nation citizen Amy Staton performs on a different kind of stage. In her unique role as a female jouster, Staton takes us back to medieval times, where she introduces us to the heroic knights of old.
My name's Amy Staton, born and raised in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and I'm a female jouster here at the Castle of Muskogee. I work for Heroic Knights of Old and Staton's Keep Jousting, and on the field I portray Dame Eden. Today we're going to be rehearsing, getting ready for the upcoming season of Oklahoma Renaissance Festival. The castle steward likes to refer to this as the gateway to another world. We try to keep in character completely, which means speaking in accents, and we don't bring anything modern into the society. And the idea is once you come through the gates, you are in Castleton, England, which is a border town between England and Ireland. So a typical day of rehearsing with Heroic Knights of Old includes arming up in minimal armor, the helm, the shield, and just training pads. And we're going to get into the list. You know, we'll run the horses a few times to remind them of the pattern. Then we'll trade hits in the list. We'll be practicing some targeting by doing aerial thrown rings, and then we're going to practice a little sword play as well and use some ground weapons.
Go out and I take it right there a lot of the times.
It's really scary to see someone swinging an axe at your head, and you've got this thing to block with, but when it hits, he's swinging with full force. So when it hits, and then I go back and I look at my shield and I see the chunks missing out of it, that's when it gets real. I grew up in Tahlequah, Oklahoma on a lot of Indian land that my grandparents had got when they signed the Dawes Commission. I never owned a horse, we never had a horse. We were too poor to have anything like that. This handsome fella is Titan. Titan is lovingly referred to as the Eeyore of the joust list here, because you can see by this long face and expression, nobody loves him. He's a big spoiled baby and I love him. He takes great care of me. There are plenty of times where I'm getting up on that horse and listening to them get the crowd going, and I have to calm myself and center myself because I still get jittery inside because it's a lot. You're going against two guys that are definitely stronger than me. You're on a huge horse who, if he ever actually felt like it, he could chunk me easily. And even though I'm wearing armor, I know for a fact when you fall off the horse, it hurts and you end up in the ER. When you put on the helm, it's interesting because everything goes away. All the screaming of the crowd, all the cheering, all the people, all the flags. And as soon as I put on that helm, it's Titan and I, and that person at the end of the list. And that's all I see. When I started working at the castle in 2010, myself and my two older children, we came out here and they worked in the children's room, of course, and I worked in a pub. I had never even seen a joust. The only contact I had with the jousters was when they walked through my pub to get water or get a soda or something. And truth be told, there was one jouster that I thought was pretty doggone handsome.
The gentleman standing next to me, this is Sir Richard, the 3rd Earl of Staton, otherwise known as Rick Staton. Little did I know, as I was staring at him as he was going to the pub, he was lingering at the doors and staring at me as I was dancing around the floor and waiting on the patrons and playing with the bards.
Well, what really happened is she came down to the joust field on a certain day with the apples for the horses. And one of the other knights was in for a 1 weekend, and he tried to flirt with her.
No, there was no try. It was
I drove
really...
him away and said, no, that one's mine, leave her alone.
And we got married a couple years afterwards. So one thing went to another, and the next season I left the pub, ended up on the joust field as a squire, and then the night marshal, and then learned from there. The first year I spent as a squire, all of a sudden I'm in someone else's shadow, which did not sit well with me. And so after a year as his squire and watching everybody, oh, Sir Richard, Sir Richard. And I'm just the girl who fetches Sir Richard's water. I said, you got a choice here. I'm either going back to my pub or you can teach me how to do this. Right after that, I got my own horse, I got my own armorer, I got my own swords, and I learned how to do this. But having never ridden a horse before in my life, I got a crash course. Dame I had to earn, because that's a title given to a female knight. There are different ways to become a knight. You can be a birthright knight, which means you were born into it. I'm the different one out here. I am the commoner's knight. I am the people's knight. And my character rose up, earned her stripes the hard way, and now fights against all the people with titles. Of course, you get people who come to a Renaissance festival and they want you to be historically accurate. So they look at you first and they go, well, there were no female knights. Yes, there were. Look up Order of the Hatchet. Look up Order of the Rose, which was a Catholic order of knights. Then they look at you and go, historically accurate, there were no commoner knights. Yes, there were. There were many times, just like in the Civil War and other historical battles throughout history and other areas, we see women stepping onto the field and taking the place of a man's role. I'm very proud to be part of what I do. Very proud of being part of the heroic knights of old, which actually came to be because another joust company wouldn't let a female joust. At the end of the show, I always go to the fence, and it's great because you get this rush of mostly little girls who just come running up. Before I started doing this, they came out dressed as princesses or ladies of the court. And it's really neat because now I don't want to be the ladies of the court all the time. Little girls are stepping up to be knighted as dames. It's kind of been an honor to be a part of all that and watch their faces change and watch their worlds evolve. I hope and pray that I can do this for many years to come. And should I ever have to retire my sword, I hope there is a young lady out there who is ready to step into my boots and take up my banner and continue this fight and this game that is jousting.
Let's go now to New York City, where two Cherokee ballerinas get the opportunity of a lifetime to study under some of the best ballet masters in the world.
ballerina is supposed to look like she's elegant. She moves very gracefully. A ballerina just looks beautiful. She pulls her audience in and never lets them go. Share everything with them.
A ballerina should be able to move easily and effortlessly and not make it look like it's painful.
It means that we can show our emotions, we can show the beauty, we can show the sadness, we can show the anger, we can show everything just through our movements. We don't have to talk to a person, we can just show them by arms or the way we turn or anything such as that. And anytime I'm feeling like I'm at a hard place in my life, I can just go to dance and let out everything, and it helps me through everything. We are here for a 3-week summer ballet intensive for the Vaganova school in Russia, and it's called Open World Dance Foundation. We're just taking classes from people who have come from Russia in ballet, character. We've done a little bit of point, just all kinds of classes to get us ready for our future.
It's a really big opportunity, and you can only do this once in a lifetime.
It's just a really good experience, and you can say, oh, I was taught by the Russians.
Ba-bum, bum, bum, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and stay.
I graduated from Vaganova Academy of St. Petersburg, Russia. My teachers were last students of Agrippina Vaganova. Academy is named after her. I was very, very lucky. I had 6 students of Vaganova in my life. They were my teachers and coaches.
And then on day 5 and 6. Vaganova was a dancer herself. What Vaganova did, while she was raised herself in Cherokee method, and then she studied French, she took the best of both worlds, combined them, and through her own experience as a dancer, came to understand that there are some things that can be left, you know, out in Italian and in French schools, and then combined and brought together her own, what came to be as a Vaganova method. Any really world company that's anybody world famous, you're gonna go, and it doesn't matter where they dance, but you're gonna go, oh, you are from St. Petersburg or from Moscow. Oh, yes, okay, that makes sense.
We had quite a few auditions, and we allowed in only kids who really want to learn. I wanted to make sure that we give an opportunity to those who really would want to learn and who have a lot of questions about this rare art form, because we have the answers to those questions.
I started at the age of 6. Ballet, it was a better way for me to express myself, and it's a lot of fun because I've made so many friends and I can always go to dance and be with them.
I started when I was 6 as well, and the reason I started was because I had been diagnosed with myasthenia gravis.
We knew that there was a problem, and we went and seen the pediatric neurologist, and he came to me with a big old stack of books and told me he knew what was wrong with her. He told me in 80% of cases that it would continue to get worse, and it would, basically it's just their muscles are the voluntary muscles are not being able to be controlled. They just quit working. And so I said, what can we do to keep her, you know, to keep these things going? And I said, she's been taking ballet. She wasn't real serious, but he said, continue that. That's kind of how we stumbled into ballet. And she's, I guess what they would say, in remission. She's never had any more symptoms other than those at the very beginning. So we just try to keep her healthy and keep her going.
Since I've been here, I've done a lot of walking. I've met some very interesting people, and I've done a lot of amazing things and seen amazing things.
All my life, I never thought I'd go very far from Oklahoma. So to come here to New York is amazing. It's so cool, and I've had so much fun.
The thing that I most miss about Oklahoma is seeing grass and trees. I'm tired of seeing concrete. Ballet is my way of breaking free from other people. It's my way of expressing myself. Dance is kind of like my safe haven.
It's not just, oh, well, look, you do it this way. You you do this with your arms. No, it's, you gotta put your arms here, you gotta move your legs here, and you better get this spot right here. It's tough.
I hope people see that this isn't just something that is easy for us. It's something that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. And I hope they see that and not something else.
I'm proud of myself for getting this far because this is just an incredible opportunity to be able to come here and dance with these people. It's amazing to me because I never thought I'd amount to anything like this. I never did.
It's surprising for me to even think about coming here and getting this opportunity. I'm shocked. I'm just very grateful.
Becky Hobbs has had an outstanding music career as a country and western singer-songwriter and Oklahoma Music Hall of Famer. She's also a descendant of Nancy Ward, beloved woman of the Cherokees, and uses her musical talents to bring Ward's story to the world.
I think we're going to rock it a little bit. Do y'all mind?
You know, I've written over 2,000 songs, and I've written way more songs than I will ever in this life have an outlet for.
Before I could talk.
I'm Becky Hobbs. I'm a singer-songwriter, musician, entertainer, and now playwright. I grew up in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and started playing the piano when I was 9 years old. I had an older sister. When we got home from school, since my mom was gone at work, we'd fight over who got to practice the piano. And we'd end up hovering over the piano bench and hitting each other with our butts, and then we'd start hitting each other with the Baptist hymnal. And she was twice my size, but I always won, so I got to practice more than she did. I just thought back then that anybody could write a song. The songs were there in my head, and I just would sit down and work on them and play them. When I was 15 years old, I started what has now been documented as the first all-female rock band in the state of Oklahoma. A radio station in Tulsa had an all-girl band contest. That band was called the Surprise Package, and we played out of the Tulsa area for a couple of years. I was invited to join a band called Swamp Fox in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which was all guys. And I thought, you know what, it's time to start playing with the boys. Lewis Anderson and I drove our old jalopies out to Los Angeles, California, and that's when I really started getting serious in the music business. Jeff Wald was married to Helen Reddy, and Helen at the time was one of the hottest female artists on the pop charts. So he took some of my songs to Helen Reddy, and I got a Helen Reddy cut in 1974. That was my first major recording. Alabama has recorded 3 of my songs. Probably my biggest song of all, Angels Among Us. Conway Twitty had a #1 with I Want to Know You Before We Make Love. George Jones and Loretta Lynn, Glenn Campbell and Emmylou Harris, quite a few country artists. I only write a song if it keeps knocking and says, you've got to write me. If I have a great idea and it has to be written, then I pay attention to it and I'll write it. Which is what happened with I'll Take 2 Tens.
Oklahoma born and Oklahoma raised.
Sean Crittenden sent me an email and said, I have a great title. You know, he's a fellow Cherokee Nation citizen. He's a tribal councilman now. And he sent me the title, I'll Take 2 Tens, You Can Keep the 20. We wrote it in a way that it's telling it like it is. Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill, and Andrew Jackson was responsible for the Trail of Tears. This is what he did, and you know, if you're gonna give me change, you know, give me 2 tens. I don't wanna have anything to do with the 20. Because that man on the bill,
he ain't worth a penny, so I'll take 2 tens, and you can keep the 20.
I'm thrilled about being one of the newest inductees into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. It's been very important to me to come back and forth to Oklahoma and to do what I can for the Cherokee Nation and for Oklahoma music. I feel like no matter where I've gone in the world, I've taken a little bit of Oklahoma with me. I feel like it's probably all the different things I've done in my life and the years and years of making music and writing songs and being out there entertaining. And then, of course, co-writing Nanyehi. I'm a 5th great-granddaughter of Nanyehi, Nancy Ward, beloved woman of the Cherokee. My mom told me this all my life. She'd always say, you know, Becca, you're a direct descendant of Nancy Ward, and then she told me the story about Nancy Ward. Even back then, I knew someday that I wanted to honor Nancy Ward in some way, and I thought I would be recording an album, you know, of songs. I was performing in Bartlesville at the Bartlesville Centennial celebration back in 2007, and I met Nick Sweet. After the show, he came up to me and he said, you know, I know who Nancy Ward is. And we discussed, gosh, let's write a musical. The musical is about Nancy Ward's life. It starts at her birth, and there's some childhood scenes. Her cousin was dragging canoe, who, you know, later became a powerful war chief. And then here's Nanyehi, Nancy Ward, who took the path of peace. So therefore, we have the conflict in the musical. Nanyehi has a big cast. We will probably have a cast of around 35 this year. I must have been crazy because it is a whole different animal. This musical is something that I was meant to do, and I had no idea when I was starting the little all-girl band when I was 15 years old that it would lead me to this. I feel that our ancestors want this to happen, and sometimes the energy is so much that it either excites me so much or it's exhausting at times. But I feel like it is my mission to bring Nancy Ward's story to today's world.
We hope you enjoyed our show. And remember, you can always watch entire episodes and share your favorite stories online at Osiyo.tv. There is no Cherokee word for goodbye because we know we'll see you again. We say, Dodadago ha'i. Wado. Are you ready for an adventure? The Cherokee Passport allows you to explore the 66,000 acres that make up the Cherokee Nation. From the natural beauty of our lakes and rivers to fascinating cultural attractions. There is history and beauty around every corner. Learn more about the Passport at visitCherokeeNation.com and receive admission to 5 Cherokee Nation museums and more.